Hey friends, today I'm going to be sharing with you my long-term review of the Garmin Edge 1040 Solar. I'm super excited to share with you what I love about this unit and the things that I've struggled with and whether or not I think you should buy it. I've had this unit for about 8 months now, so I've had plenty of time to put it through its paces, and I'm excited to share the results with you. Quick disclaimer, I am a Garmin ambassador, but I actually purchased this unit before I'd ever signed anything with Garmin, and I spent my own dollars on it. So all of these thoughts and opinions are my own. I love working with Garmin, but they are not paying me to say anything about this unit whatsoever. When I was looking into buying my first bike computer, there were a couple things that were really important to me. I'd spent plenty of time using my phone for navigation, and truth be told, I didn't hate it, but the big struggles came in two key areas. The first being navigation. The phone did fine when it had service, but as I started riding out farther and farther, that got a little more spotty. One of the things that I was really looking for in a head unit was really strong navigation. I wanted to make sure that I would always have GPS signal and I wouldn't get stranded somewhere and not know how to get where I needed to go. The other was battery life. It doesn't matter what phone you have, if you're using it to navigate turn-by-turn directions in far-off places, you will burn through your battery. So I wanted to make sure that I had something that would last a really long time. So originally I bought the Garmin Edge 1030 Plus. It had great battery life, and truly Garmin's navigation system has always really impressed me. If you're making navigation systems for airplanes and boats and sending your products out into space, which they did recently, I feel like it's gonna be good enough for my gravel rides. The 1030 was great, but I happened to crack the screen on it the day before Unbound in 2021. Which was a little bit of a bummer. Surprisingly, it functioned very well even through the rain and the mud, but Garmin insisted that if something happens to a head unit, you should get it replaced. So they do have great customer service, which was super helpful. I was able to trade in that 1030, pay the difference, and get this 1040 Solar. So I've had this since mid-June of 2021, and I've been using it as my main cycling computer. Just so you know how I'm using it, I use my cycling computer not only to track my rides, track power, distance, heart rate, all that stuff. I use it to navigate when I'm going farther out and there are different routes that I want to follow. Also, I use it indoors with my rollers. So I use the sensors and the head unit to track my indoor rides as well as my outdoor rides. When it comes to navigating and operating with this unit, there's really not a lot to say. It just works. I've had absolutely zero issues. It's super easy to upload routes. I am a little bit ashamed at how many times I roll up to a group ride and don't have the route uploaded on my computer, but literally it's just a couple pushes of a button from my phone and it's there. In under a minute, it's already uploaded and it's easy for me to just press and start the route. Using the Garmin Connect app is fairly simple. It's also a nice place to track overall stats if you don't want to pay an additional subscription to something like Training Peaks or paying for premium Strava. The Garmin Connect app is actually pretty fully featured, and I've enjoyed comparing stats and notes from that app to all the other apps that I have at this point. The big thing about the 1040 Solar is the battery life. Now, Garmin says 48 hours in strenuous use is possible or likely, but the question remains, what does it look like in regular use? How often do I need to charge it? How long does it last? Truly, for using it most of these 8 months, I've charged it very rarely, but I got really curious and decided that I would try a one charge challenge and charge the Garmin all the way to 100% and then see how long it took me to get down to 0. All right. It is January 22nd, and last night I charged my Garmin 1040 Solar all the way up. We're gonna see how many miles, rides, hours, etc. I can get on one charge. All right, let's go. So overall, the battery lasts lasted from the morning of January 22nd to the afternoon of February 13th. That is 3 weeks and a day. So that is a full 22 days of regular use. I had a mix of indoor and outdoor rides. So there were some rides where the solar charging capabilities weren't at play and some rides where it was. I checked out how many rides I did, the distance and the time. So in that 3-week period, I did 21 rides for a total of 260 miles and the time 23 hours and 42 minutes. Now I know what you're thinking. 23 hours is a long way off from 48, but this was just the ride time. When I was going back and checking all of my tracked rides, all I had was the ride time, not necessarily the elapsed time or the amount of time that the unit was actually on, whether or not I was moving. So given that and given the nature of most of my rides, they are coffee rides, and given the fact that I'm not particularly great at actually turning the unit off once I roll up and hit pause, so arguably, the unit was left on for a lot longer than that. The other thing I like to note is I have no battery saving measures on the unit whatsoever. I'm running it essentially stock right out of the box. I have adjusted a couple of the data screens and I have a lot of sensors connected to it. So anytime I'm riding outdoors, I have my taillight and radar connected. I have a heart rate monitor, either from a chest strap heart rate monitor or from my watch. I have my power meter pedals, a speed and cadence sensor, as well as keeping my phone connected and my Di2 shifting connected to the head unit basically at all times. So we know that all of these connections also eat into battery life. I think almost 24 hours of ride time with that amount of demand is actually pretty awesome and far exceeds what I was getting with the 1030. On the 13th, I started my ride. It was my birthday ride and I had about 6% battery left. I knew I was gonna go out and ride about 34, 35 miles. I wanted to make sure that I didn't lose that ride. So I brought a small power bank with me to charge the unit if I needed to, which brings up a really awesome feature of the 1040 Solar and all of Garmin's head units, which is they are all through charging compatible, which essentially means you don't have to turn the unit off or stop what you're doing in order to charge it. So you can plug it in using a power bank or one of their external batteries, and the unit will continue to charge and function as normal, which is super, super helpful if you're going out on a lot longer adventures and you really are pushing the battery life to the extreme. If the battery inside it doesn't have enough, you can outsource without having to mess up any of your tracking features. I've talked about several of the other things that I really like about this head unit in other videos just briefly, but I'll go over them here so they're all in one place. I really like that it has incident detection built in. The head unit also has a live track function, so if I'm going out on a longer ride, I can send that information to my wife and she gets a link where she can follow along, can see the route and see where I am, how fast I'm going, whether or not I've taken any breaks, etc. These are little things that actually provide a lot of peace of mind, especially if you're riding in places that are farther out, maybe where self-service is spotty, or just where you feel a little less safe. Now for the things I don't like. Really, the list is pretty short, but I will say that this head unit is expensive. That's probably my biggest gripe with it. This unit retails for $750, and that is no joke. That is just for the head unit without any of the extra sensors. Now, I'm not necessarily saying that this is overpriced. I think for what you're getting, what this unit is capable of, and just in general what things cost nowadays, it's actually fairly reasonably priced, but that doesn't mean that it's not a really big purchase. So do I think that you should go out and buy this unit? I think it depends. If you're a newer cyclist and you aren't riding a whole lot of gravel or you're not riding really far out, you might be fine with just working with your phone for honestly quite a while. But if you are looking to do bigger adventures, longer multi-day trips, things where you're gonna be out farther and those safety features are gonna come in really clutch, then yeah, I think that this is likely a good investment. I like to tell beginner cyclists that a cycling computer is actually one of your best early investments If you are planning on doing more rides farther out, doing rides where you need to follow a route for navigation, or taking on any sort of challenges where the phone is not really going to be up to snuff. So I think that the 1040 Solar is for people who are really looking to push the limits of what kind of cycling they've been doing, both in terms of distance and time. It's for people who are really interested in getting the most battery life possible. And truly, it's for people who have the $750 to spend on the unit itself. As I mentioned earlier, I used my own money to pay for this unit, and honestly, I don't regret it. And I would 100% buy it again if I needed to. The other plus is Garmin has great customer service, as well as great warranties. So if you are a little skittish about spending this amount of money, they really do back their products. I don't think that this head unit is for everyone, but if it's in your budget and you're in the market, I highly recommend it. Garmin also has a wonderful line of less expensive head units. So if you're looking to get into the cycling computer world, but you're not ready to drop that amount of money, then definitely check out some of their more mid-range and beginner units. But if you have the extra cash to spend, I really can't recommend the 1040 Solar highly enough. So that wraps up my long-term review of the Garmin Edge 1040 Solar. I'd love to hear what cycling computer you're running. Be sure to drop a comment down below. If you found anything in this video helpful, be sure to hit the like button and don't forget to subscribe. If you're interested in supporting the work that I do more fully, the link to my Patreon page is down below, and I will see y'all in the next one.